Afternoon. Hello, hello, hello. Oh God, I just want to sleep. Oh God, I just want to sleep. Oh, no part of my brain is on right. I'm so sleepy. Oh God, it's been a rough day already. Yuck. I feel yuck. But I made it up in time for the stream. Oh boy. Oh boy. Pardon me while I make a mess everywhere. One of the cool things about the online client is you can actually watch other people's play. Like you can just drop in on them like this. This is Stan the Booty Man. Oh, he's dead. Ah! Whoops. Never mind. We're not watching that run. He just died. I didn't want to watch him for a second because I said his name was Stan the Booty Man. Hey Nemo! What perfect timing. Welcome to the stream. Today is super sleepy day. I'm having a super sleepy day. Alright, so the goal today is to take a look at some of the magic-oriented archetypes here in the game. Alright, so last time we were... If I were to hit play 029 here. Last time we played a Minotaur Berserker and pretty much just grabbed the biggest axe we could find and the biggest armor we could find and just charged at everything and cut them into pieces. And even though it was as simple as that, we still died in Lair. Actually, no, it was not Lair, it was Swamp. We died in the Swamp. So this time we're going to try and do something a little different. So magic is much harder in this game. That's the first thing to note. Magic is much harder in this game than it is to just charge at things and cut them down with an axe. There are lots of hybrid play styles, so you can try and combine axes with, or weapon styles with some kind of magic. But trying to play with just a lot of raw magic is quite challenging. So my preferred magic play style is, first of all, we're going to hit D here. We're going to grab the Gargoyle. Gargoyles are quite strong. Now, it says here they have low health, which is true. Their actual raw health value is actually quite low. But they come with an innate damage resistance because their bodies are made of stone. So physical damage, any kind of physical damage, is automatically reduced by a guaranteed amount. So they actually are quite hardy. They also have some pretty good magic affinities. So if I hit Gargoyle, you'll see that these are the recommended playstyles for Gargoyle, right? There's Fighter, Gladiator, Monk, and Berserker are lit up. But so is Fire, Ice, Earth, and Venom Mage. Which is awesome. It's a really cool combination of possibilities for these guys. Now you'll note that just because some of these are not lit up doesn't mean I cannot select them. I can select anything I want. I can select anything on this list that I want to start with. It's just these guys are not lit up because they're not ideal. So what I'm going to start with this guy is we're going to start as an Earth Elementalist. Mostly because their starting set of spells is like pretty just straight up powerful. They're not easily resisted by most things, and they can carry you through the early game quite nicely, and then by the time you get into the mid game, you've got some options for figuring out what to do because the spell because of the skills that you're going to be training under Earth Elementalist are so uniquely interesting for some very powerful high level end game magic. It transitions into the mid and late game pretty well. So we're going to try Earth Elementalist. We're going to hit X. Boom. We start right next to a book. This is going to be very interesting. So I am starting right off as an Earth Elementalist. So normally I would start by setting up my skills. But before we do that, thank you, Slimefoo. Thank you for the follow. Thank you, Slimefoo. Slimefoo _ Thank you very much. Welcome to the channel. So I'm going to start by picking up the book, actually, because normally I would start immediately by setting up my skills, but since it spawned me right next to a book, I might as well grab that first. And it is a book of spatial translocations, and I've added the spells Blink, Lesser Beckoning, and Manifold Assault. So if I hit M and pull up, sorry, that's, well, we'll start from here. This is going to be the skills. So I'm going to start by turning off fighting, unarmed combat, armor, and stealth. We'll leave dodging on because that's going to be our main source of defenses in the early game. And we will turn off, let's see. I'm going to turn off transmutations. Even though technically transmutations is important for our starting spell, the reason that it's on the list in the first place is because the spell that we start off knowing and having memorized actually does use transmutations, but it's not particularly strong. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to focus Earth Magic. See how that turned to a star? Means that we're putting more points into it than normal. So we're going to focus Earth Magic. We're going to put also points into spellcasting and dodging. Now, I've got to remember the hotkey. It has been a while. So excuse me for a moment while I try and remember what the hell the magic hotkey is. Oh god, it's been so long. Hold on. That's the wrong button. Oh my god, I can't remember the magic button. There it is. Well, there's all the spells I know. Z is cast spell. Oh man. It has actually been this long. That's the force attack button. Oh, why can't I remember? Hold on. Thankfully, there's a very useful help screen. Targeting. Ah, there it is. There are two ways to activate memorize spells: by quivering them and using, or by firing, use I. Library, you can, oh, it's capital M. M is skills, capital M is magic. I knew it was M, I just couldn't freaking, okay, it's capital M. So here are all the spells in my spell book. These are spells that are in my spell book, but I have not memorized yet. So I cannot cast any of these spells. And you'll see that most of them, or all of them, have a level higher than my current level. I'm level 1 because we just started and haven't killed anything yet. So I am level 1, so I can't learn any of these spells. So the spells that came from my new book that I picked up off the ground were Blink, Lesser Beckoning, and Manifold Assault. You'll notice all 3 of them have the Translocation tab. Those are teleportation spells, basically. They transport things across from place to place. Blink lets me jump to a new space. It's incredibly useful for getting out of trouble. Lesser Beckoning is a spell that can grab an item on the map and pull it towards me. And Manifold Assault is, I believe it's a very powerful damaging spell. I can actually click on Describe here, or I can hit exclamation mark to move to Describe and then click on it. And Manifold Assault warps space into paradoxical configurations in order to strike many visible targets with one melee attack. Ah, okay. At high power, it can be used to strike more enemies at once. So when I turn this spell on, then I make a melee attack, I hit everything in the area, not just my one target. So that's less useful for a magic focus build, but a combo build can actually get some good use out of that. Now, the downside is that it's a spell level 5 and in translocations. So translocations can be a useful spell for like a useful school for like a well, for anyone really, because it's got Blink and things like Lesser Beckoning is awesome because some places they stick like really cool loot items or items that you need to complete the game in places where they are explicitly being guarded. Lesser Beckoning can actually pull stuff towards you and then you can grab it instead of you having to run over to it. This can actually mean that you can just avoid whatever boss encounter or very difficult encounter you're supposed to have to fight in order to get that rune or that piece of equipment. So all of these things are very useful. So we got to make the decision eventually whether or not we're going to go into the translocation school. But right now it's nothing we have to worry about. So for right now, we're just going to keep moving. And so when we find our first enemy, talk about the spell casting system. So this starting area is pretty open. Potions to start off, useful. Yeah. No enemies so far. There's a scroll. There we go, there's our first enemy. So, when I press Z, it asks me, you know, I have a single spell ready to go. It's called Sandblast. And it asks me to confirm. With enter, I hit enter to confirm that's the spell I want to cast. It automatically assigns the most likely target, although I can move this around and I can assign different targets, especially if there are multiple in range. I hit start, or I hit enter, and it casts the spell. So what I did is I actually turned, if I were to look at my inventory, oh, they changed it. Wait, when did they change Sandblast? Hold on a minute. This has got to be a recent change. Hold on. Huh. So the reason why I'm very confused is because usually in the past, Sandblast actually consumed an item. You needed to have a stone, like a throwing rock, like a throwing stone, on you, and then what Sandblast did was it actually changed that stone into a bunch of sand and then blasted that at speed at the enemy. That's the philosophy of the spell. And so you actually needed to have a bunch of stones on you. But I guess at this point it doesn't do that. This is interesting. So I just cast it a second time, and you'll note that the opponent is still not dead. I've cast the spell twice, so I've used 2 mana, and this you'll see I'm very lightly contaminated with residual magic. When you cast a spell, you have a chance of casting that spell. So I have a 4% risk of failing to cast Sandblast right off the bat. So 96% of the time it's going to cast successfully. 4% of the time, it's going to fail, and I just failed it. What happens when you fail casting a spell depends on how strong that spell is and how good you are as a mage. If you're a very good spellcaster, then the risk of miscasting a spell is just that I get some light contamination. Contamination is basically I have just raw magical energy coursing through me. This is generally negative. If this builds up, like if I continue to cast spells and get more heavily contaminated, I can eventually suffer mutations as a result of this. But at low levels, it basically doesn't mean anything, and this will go away on its own in a couple turns. So this is it's not much of a thing. It mostly the downside is that I spent the mana and didn't get the effect that I'm looking for. That's the downside for real. That's the real downside. I cast it a third time and miscast it again. All right, so anybody who's played an RNG based game knows this pain. I just cast a spell that has 96% chance of failing 3 times, and I failed it 2 times out of 3. Ouch. So now I'm out of mana, so now I just have to stand here and punch this thing to death. Which was actually more successful than casting my spell, but you know. That's the nature of early game spellcast. Oh my god, I'm still in the mindset of playing my barbarian character. So I have made a big mistake. I walked into a space with multiple enemies. Alright, I finally killed something with a spell. I cast the Sandblast at the rat and killed it. But now I could be in trouble. A second Sandblast at the kobold and killed it. The question, do I grab the short sword? Early game spellcasters are, yeah, always worrying. We're gonna back off here. So my mana regenerates over time. So as I continue to like run away from this goblin, which is approaching me, my mana is regenerating. So, all right, killed the goblin. Now earth magic skill went up. So the more it goes up, the less likely I am to fail casting the spell, the more damage the spell does, so on and so forth. So now, all right, there's another kobold. I'm not close enough. So things have a range. It should be, my spells have a range, so I can't reach that kobold. He's too far away. We're gonna wait a turn. He's gonna take a step towards me, and now we can reach him, and now he's dead. Okay, there's a rat here. He's out of range. Wait for a second. Okay, so that first encounter with the cockroach went very terribly. I cast the spell 3 times. The first time I barely hit him. The second time I missed him, third time I missed him, and then I had to punch him to death. All these other encounters have gone much better, where the spell is casted right off. I've blasted them and they've died in 1 hit. It's just gonna be sometimes you're rolling dice. So I just hit level 2, which importantly means I have more health and mana. Now I have 5 mana instead of 3, which is good. But it also means that if I go into Memorize, you can see that I have now opened up my level 2 spells that are in the book here. So I have 4 spell levels left. As I go up levels and as my magic skills increase, I will get more spell levels. So right now, I could learn both of these if I wanted to, because I have 4 levels worth of spells to learn. This one will take 2, this one will take 2. But then, unless I generate 3 more levels, I then won't be able to learn Stone Arrow next level, right? So there's no guarantee that I'll be able to generate 3 whole spell levels across 1 XP level. So I should only put 1 of these spells in my book. So which one of these 2 do I want to put, or well, these are in my book, but which ones do I want to memorize? So there's 2 different things to think about here. The first one is that Pass Wall is, first of all, it's in my specialization, Earth, which means it has a lower failure chance to begin with. But its effect is actually weaker than Blink. So what does Pass Wall do? Pass Wall lets you pass through a wall. So if I were to start, for instance, here, right? If I were to stand here and cast Pass Wall on this wall, I would pop out on this side. This is incredibly awesome for getting away from enemies if you are in a position where you are on one side of a 1 depth wall. It can only push you through 1 depth, so far as I understand. It can only push you through 1 depth of wall. So if you are trying to evade a set of enemies and you happen to find yourself on one side of a 1 depth wall, it is incredibly awesome. The downside is that's not going to happen all that often. And the amount of times that you'll want to use pass wall and actually be able to do so are actually kind of thin, because chances are you're either not going to be sure you're on the side of a one-side wall, because like, see, like look up here. If I were to look up here, right, this is a hallway and might extend this way. So like this square might have a square on the other side of it, but it might not. This might just immediately turn and go up here. Like I don't know where this hallway goes, so I don't know which one of these squares will actually deposit me on a wall, you know, and this also might be to depth, right? Like, I don't know. So, like, I don't know if casting a spell on one of these walls will put me somewhere useful. It'll also, even if it does deposit me on the other side, I don't know what's over here. There might be more enemies here, right? So using pass wall to escape, sometimes not incredibly useful. Sometimes it's an absolute lifesaver. But blink, much better, because blink, I hit the button and I jump to a random spot that is visible. It's uncontrolled, so I don't know where I'm going to go exactly, but it's always somewhere that's visible to me. Right? So if I cast it now, I can go anywhere from like over here to up here to over here to down here, right? Most likely I'll move smaller distances, so I'm much more likely to only go like this far. But I could go like way over here. That's really strong. Really, really, really strong. But it's in a whole new school, translocations, which I've not got any points built into yet. And you can tell that because the spell failure rate is really high. It's also marked in red, which means that like if I do cast it, I have a 32% chance of failing, and if I then do fail, really bad things can start to happen. These are in purple. These is like cataclysmically bad. These can like be run-endingly bad. You can like get instantly mutated. You can be like banished. It can do like incredible amounts of damage to you. Like if I tried to cast Manifold Assault, I can't because I'm only level 2. But if I were to hit level 5 and try and cast like Manifold Assault, which has a 99% failure rate, and it fails, which it, you know, 99% likely it's going to fail, it could instantly kill me. Like it could end my game. Red means that like really bad things can happen. It might end your game like right away, but most likely it's just going to really screw you. White over here, then there's like a yellow below this, then there's a white, and then there's a gray. As you go down the destructiveness of the spell. So anyway, I'm actually gonna learn Blink. So it's gonna spell me. This spell is extremely dangerous to cast. Do I want to memorize Blink, consuming 2 of my spell levels and leaving 2? I'm gonna say yes. So I have now memorized that. So I'm not actually going to cast that for a while, but you'll see the translocations is actually opened up in here. So I'm going to specialize in translocations because I want to get a few levels in that. I want to get a few levels in translocations, primarily just because I picked up that early game book and there's some really useful stuff in there. Endoplasm dead. I'm actually going to rest here because I really should regenerate my mana. Okay, so right now we're at 5 mana, which means I can cast that spell 5 times in a row instead of 3 before running out of mana. This is very, very beneficial. Ooh, an early game shop. A shop on D1. I believe I have 0 gold. Oh no, I have some gold. I have 16 gold. But that's obviously not a lot. So there are 3 potions of heal wounds, 1 potion of curing, and 1 potion of invisibility in this D1 shop. That's actually incredible, and I'll have to keep my eyes on that. If I ever look like I'm running out of resources, or if it looks like the dungeon's not generating good resources, but there is some halfway decent like money in the game, I might have to come back here. Some runs you get like no money, but it gives you lots of stuff. Some runs you get like no stuff, but a fair amount of money. And then sometimes on those runs with a fair amount of money, you get no shops. Like it can be a little bit, the game can be pretty aggressive towards you in those kinds of things. You see, this is what I'm talking about. Like I was down here talking about this space right here. Or no, I think I was actually talking about this space here. But like, here's the funny thing about this, is that I pointed out these like specific areas, right? It looked like, because we saw that this was a 2 width wall, we could have probably guessed that this was a 2-width wall, and I could have guessed that by casting Pass Wall here, it would have it would have failed. But it turns out that I could have cast Pass Wall here, and it would have dropped me in this little corridor here, and then I would have been probably very safe. Like, that's why Pass Wall is so random. Like, sometimes you just don't know. Here's a kobold. We caught him sleeping, and now he's dead. Poison darts is an interesting possibility. I think I'm going to pass on that for the time being. Grab a little bit more gold. Now, some people would probably recommend that by this point, I like grab one of these daggers that's on the ground just so that I have a melee option. But I really think that in this case, I'm waiting to see. I mean, I'm really not sure what my weapon choice would be for a character like this. Like, you should be running like a secondary weapon. I probably should try and find. Oops, that's a miscast. Try and find some kind of like melee weapon option, because at a certain point, just casting spells to kill things does become a little bit unviable for most runs. Now, that's not guaranteed to be the case, and there are definitely some runs that can like primarily focus on spell casting, but in a lot of cases you're going to want a weapon of some kind. So, but I think I'm gonna hold off until I see something that's actually got some worth to it before I start deciding what I want to hold on to. Because the problem is that like holding on to it like a dagger with literally 0 skill is not much better than me just swinging around with my fists, especially as a gargoyle, who they might not get any benefits to unarmed. I'm not actually 100% sure about that off the top of my head. Some of the races actually get like benefits, sometimes fairly significant benefits to their unarmed, like attacking without a weapon. I'm not sure if gargoyles are one of them. All right, so we finished D1. The thing of note to remember for D1 is that there's a shop here with some really good potions. All right, we're gonna step down and we're gonna start reading scrolls. That was a scroll of fog. And that's a scroll of identify. Good, we can identify one of our potions. That's a potion of resistance. That's great. If we go up against enemies that deal, we've already got a +0 ring mail of fire resistance. Okay, so ring mail is a light sort of bordering on medium heaviness. It's one of the lighter armors. The heavier a piece of armor is that you put on, every piece of armor has its own like encumbrance rating. The heavier a piece of armor that you put on, the more likely it is that you fail casting spells. Once the spell is successfully cast, your armor doesn't do anything to affect the spell itself. But it can make it so is that it's very difficult to cast spells, and especially very difficult spells. But my early game spells, my early game spells are already really good, and I think the spells that I'm working on are going to continue to be useful for quite a while. All that to say, I think I'm going to actually try and wear this ring mail of fire resistance. Let's see how bad it is. Let's see how much it affects our... So right now, Sandblast has gone to a 9% risk of failure. So it's more than doubled. But we're going to get better at casting that spell pretty quickly here. It's a level 1 spell. It'll be back up to high efficiency. Oh yeah, I want to drop that robe so it's not taking space in my inventory. There we go. Alright, so I swapped out the robe to the first piece of enchanted armor I found, which was ring mail of fire resistance. Now, I'm not sure what the general philosophy is on like defenses versus offenses. You know, whether or not like having a bunch of defenses but like no offensive capability is considered like really, really bad. But I like to strike a kind of balance. There's probably like a best choice. There we go. And I don't know what it is, but I like to strike a kind of balance. So in this case, instead of going with absolutely no resistances, I did decide to go for that piece of armor. Fire resistance is nice. Ooh. Alright, there we go. Worms are actually like shockingly hard early game enemies. They're very hardy. Will sometimes take several hits from whatever your starting ability is. We hit level 3! We're going to increase our intelligence, because that's going to give us more magic points. It's going to give us more spell level. No, I don't think it gives me more spell levels, but it's going to increase my magic points, and it feeds into the calculation for like spell effectiveness, spell damage. Now that we're level 3, we can think about learning more spells. Specifically, I want that stone arrow spell, although it should be noted that the lesser beckoning spell is also available at level 3. But I want the stone arrow spell. Now, right now, it's 47% fit to fail, and it's this purple, which means that I just absolutely should never cast the spell right now. But it'll be very important to have it. Yes, memorize it. It'll be very important to have it, just in case. So one of the big reasons that having it is important is that, first of all, if I'm in a dire straight situation, like I need to blast somebody down like right now, I can always roll the dice, right? I can roll the dice on the like 50% failure rate. If it successfully casts it, there's a good chance that it'll kill just about anything at this level. Stone Arrow is a very potent spell. But more importantly is that this actually added conjurations to my available spell list here. And Conjurations is like the #1 kill stuff magic school. Conjurations is not summoning things. There's a whole other skill for summoning. Conjurations is the idea of like manifesting energy, right? In this game, that's the way that it's like described, is the idea of manifesting energy. So like anything that like conjures like a bolt of damage is conjuration. So fireball is conjuration. Any sort of ice blast is conjuration. Anything that like creates like clouds of energy is conjuration. My stone arrow spell is conjurations. All right, a lot of the end game blast things and kill them spells use conjurations. Okay, so it's very important to have this on the list. So we're gonna let so you know, right now we're splitting our training quite a bit. Like you can see the dodging is actually only pulling in 1% of our like skills. Like only 1% of the experience we're getting in is going to dodging. Like that's how much we're sort of splitting things around here. So right now things are leveling pretty slowly, and I know for a fact that that is not ideal, but it's what we're doing for now. There's probably a better way to do this. Oh yeah, here's a cool thing. This adder that's coming up on me is a poisonous enemy. Well, it's a venomous enemy. Come on. It's a fail cast. That's a hit, and then he's dead. That cost Tech 4 spell. So that was a venomous enemy. He can poison me, but because I am made of stone, I am actually immune to poison. Poison can't hurt me. That's one of the cool things about being a gargoyle. You don't got to worry about poison resistance. That's a miscast. That's a hit. That's a hit, but he's not dead. So now we just got to punch it to death. All right, and we did that. So there's another book on the ground, you may have noticed. So let's check this guy out. Dangerous Friends is the name of the book. Summon Guardian Golem, Orb of Destruction, and Spell Forged Servitor. All right, guys, we got the spells we need. Wow. Boy, did we get the late game spells we need. That's it. That's my end game kill stuff rotation right there. And I got it on D2. That's incredible. That's incredible, incredible. That's incredible, incredible, incredible. That's the our end game kill stuff rotation. That's what we're gonna build towards. That's the idea right there. So Spellforged Servitor. There's actually a better version of Spellforged Servitor, I believe, but basically Spellforged Servitor is like a very powerful summoning spell. It summons like a mech, like a mech tech, a magitech, basically like golem, that will cast the same spells that I cast at my enemy. So it's like just a way to double up my conjuration spells. Orb of Destruction is one of the most powerful conjuration spells in the game. It generates an orb which moves slowly. So instead of like instantly blasting to my opponent like my spells have been doing, it will actually create an orb which turn by turn will move towards my enemy. But when it hits them, it deals just utterly massive damage. And the Spellforged Servitor will also cast one. So every time I cast an Orb of Destruction, my Servitor will also cast one, and they will both move at my enemies. That is our endgame kill stuff setup. So yeah, at this point, it's just going to be a matter of building towards that. So at this point, the goal is to survive. That's still like the main #1 goal right now. It's just live, because we're still way early in this game. So thinking about how I'm going to execute that end game is something not to really worry about. Like, it's important to note that I've got it. And so like, I'm not going to run into a situation where I'm like approaching the end game and going, all right, what am I doing in the end game? I know what I'm doing in the end game now. But I still have to get there. Another scroll. Let's see. Let's read some scrolls here. So we finished D2. We're now on D3. I'm going to read some scrolls here. That's Blink. That's fine. Let's Blink. Oh, we got 3 of the same scroll all at once, huh? Oh, 3 enchant armors. Okay. Well, we'll use at least one of those. I don't know if we'll use the other 2 yet. Teleport. Oh, that's a problem. I teleported and I'm not on the stairs. I'm actually gonna get teleported, I think. Yep, I did get teleported. That's fine. I'm near a set of stairs anyway. That was not ideal. I'm gonna read the Scroll of Identify. Ambrosia, that's all right. We're gonna identify the next one down the list. Heal Wounds. Okay, we've identified Heal Wounds and I have 2 copies of it. That's dead. Lizard's dead. Rat is dead. Okay. Trident, and not sold on the Trident idea. That's a mace. That's probably worth picking up. Gargoyles have a very high affinity for maces. It might be worth picking that up. I'm just gonna punch this guy to death. That's a trap hole, which it was nice enough to actually show me. I found in my like test runs of this game that like falling through holes multiple floors down is like much more common than it used to be. Like, that's no longer just like something that happens occasionally. Like, it's happened in pretty much every run that I've had so far. So I don't know if that's just bad luck on me, but I'm just gonna have to accept the fact that that seems to be like a standard part of the gameplay experience here. Okay. Wait a minute, what? The kobold reads a scroll. Regular enemies could just read scrolls now? I was trying to figure out what the hell happened here, but the kobold actually grabbed a scroll of summoning and read it off the ground. They can just do that? I was wondering why there were so many enemies, but they were all summoned enemies. The kobold just had a scroll of summoning and used it. It should be noted this game is in active development, so like... things are always changing in it. Oh, alright. That's an Elevelon. Or an Elevelon altar. Elevelon is one of the good gods, so there are 3 good gods. Elevelon is one of them. I don't think I'm an Elevelon worshiper this game. I'm definitely not an Ush worshiper this game. Jackals. All right, killed all the jackals. Another one. Okay. Grab that. Oh, miscast. So again, even though I've gone up a couple of levels and like I'm much stronger, you know, now it's still 6% risk of failure. Like I still have a 6% chance of failing to cast this, my most basic spell. So choosing to go with this armor means that, you know, my progression into higher level spells is going to be very slow relative to somebody who just stuck with the early game robes. Oh, all right. We've got artifact leather armor. Will plus, int plus, dex plus, it's +2 leather armor. That's just straight up better. That's what we're gonna put on. We're gonna wear that. So it's leather armor. So 2 things that are important about leather armor. It's lighter armor in the first place. So that means it's gonna affect my spell cast ability less. But it's not that much less like armor than the ringmail, and the ringmail was plus, well, I enchanted to make it +1. So this is actually going to be a little bit less armor, but it is going to keep my evasion up. And remember, I've actually been sinking some points into, well, actually I'm not anymore, because nothing's been hitting me, so I'm actually not using my dodging. So I'm actually not putting any points into dodging right now, but I have sunk some experience into dodging. So lighter armor means I spend less focus on the armor part of it, more on like dodging. But artifact leather armor on D3, I will take it. It's all positives. So the positives are a little silly, right? Like if I look at it, like int +2 is okay for my magic build, right? Int +2, you know, definitely beneficial. Dex +5, Dex is a little bit of a meme stat in this game. Dex doesn't mean that much. I mean, it fortifying me all the way from 10 to 15, like giving me half again my dexterity is pretty good. And it does mean that I'm going to sail through more parts of the early game. I'm not going to like create as much noise when I move around. I have a less chance of like opening a door, because sometimes when you open doors they creak loudly and then enemies in the area become aware of you automatically. That's just completely random. I'll have less chance of that happening. You know, there's more chance that as I move around enemies, they won't immediately wake up, which is still beneficial even though I'm not like a stealth character, because if they are sleeping, if they stay in that sleeping state, then they have zero dodge, right? Which means that my first spell is guaranteed to hit them as long as I cast it successfully. And will plus is nice. Will plus just means that like I have a less chance of being affected by spells that I get a willpower saving throw against. So the will plus means that any of the early game enemies that might try and paralyze me or charm me will have a much harder time doing so. Sound of rushing water. Okay, so this means that there's a sewer in here. There's a sewer on this level. There's also a billion enemies at this drop point. So you notice they're all sleeping. This is what that Z's means. Which means that my first spell on them is going to hit for sure as long as I successfully cast it. And then when I fail. There we go, he's dead. Now everyone in this area is awake, so let's just keep blasting. So anyway, I started blasting. I just hit level 4. Okay. Potion of heal wounds. All right, so we're gonna read the rest of these scrolls, hoping that one of them is magic mapping. Because if I manage to read a scroll of magic mapping, that means that I will become fully aware of the area around me, and I can go right to the sewer entrance. That was amnesia. Amnesia is actually an interesting scroll, because you remember how I had spell levels, which means that I can only memorize a certain number of spells, right? Well, eventually some of these early game spells like Sandblast are just gonna go away. Like, they're not gonna be useful anymore. But I'm still committing 1 spell level to it staying in my memorization. How do I get rid of it? The only way to get rid of it is with a scroll of amnesia, which will let you get rid of a spell that's in your memorization list, freeing up those levels to be used for other spells later. Right now, I don't want to get rid of any spells, so we're actually just going to cancel it, which wastes the scroll, but that's fine, because I've got 2 more in my inventory, and you never really use more than like a couple in a given place. Now, there's some builds that are like designed around like way more spells than you have access to, so like for certain specific situations, and thus go through more amnesia scrolls in a run, but that's pretty like specific kinds of stuff. That was a scroll of fear. If there were any enemies near me, they would now be running from me in fear, but there were not, so it was a wasted scroll. And magic mapping, we hit it on the last one. So I can now see on the map that up here is the sewer entrance, so that's where we're going. So I'm gonna rest for a second just to get that mana back, and we're gonna get moving. Okay, that's a hound. Hound is a very specific enemy type, which does not generally show up on its own. I think that means Herald is nearby. I think that means the unique enemy Herald is nearby. Although, maybe not, because they woke up and barked and I don't hear a human shout. Earth magic skill finally clicked up to 5, so we're getting better at casting these spells. Translocations went up to 1, which is gonna help jumpstart my that blink spell. Eventually that'll get my blink spell going. Oh, I can't actually access it from here. I have to go around this way. Nope, can't do it from there either. Okay, so there's gonna be a bunch of rats, possibly even what are they called? Slime rats, sewer rats, death rats? I don't remember what they're called. So it's also important to note that I'm wading through a bunch of shallow water here. That's not ideal, because everything I do in shallow water is slower. All right, here we go. We're in the sewer now. So the sewer is always a very early game, like, side area. River rat is what they call it. I've now hit level 5. I'm gonna back up to an actual... That rat's not coming any closer. There we go. Okay. I don't know if that was some weird, like pathing bug, but it was not getting any closer to me, so I just stepped forward and blasted it. Okay. Good. Good. Okay. Doing well so far. Haven't encountered anything super scary yet. I mean, it's very early game. I probably won't encounter anything too scary in here. There are some things you can encounter in sewers which can be a little scary sometimes, but I think we're doing well enough that it's not. I don't think it's going to be a problem. That was a miss. I'm actually going to punch this one to death. Conserving mana is you know, an important thing, an important skill to learn. There we go. Which is one of the reasons why, like I said earlier, a lot of later game builds don't just rely on killing things with your spells, but you are occasionally going to want to hit things with your fists or with a weapon. Nice, there's the first treasure vault. Scroll of teleportation, scroll of summoning, scroll of identify. Gloves. We're definitely going to put on those gloves. They're unenchanted gloves, so the only thing they're going to do is just add 1 to my armor rating, but every little bit helps. That raises my armor class from 9 to 10. Every little bit helps. Oh, I'm actually going to back up here. I'm going to go to land. Can I punch that thing to death for the rest of it? Yeah. And I get to sturdy land here. Again, spending time in that water, which is scrolls you could use to enchant the gloves. I do. I absolutely do. And in fact, I could do that. Punch, punch, punch. Many enemies, many low-level enemies. Let me try and kill the snakes with my spells, punch the rats to death. Next treasure room, teleportation, and an unknown potion. Jesus, many enemies. One. Being constricted. Like, super surrounded. Oh, there's a bullfrog here too. Oh man. Yikes. How is that blink spell coming along? 14%. Summoning. Scroll of summoning might be helpful here. Off ambrosia, magic, resistance. I mean, I've got a potion of magic, so I can keep just blasting here. I think kind of has to be the play. I just have to keep blasting. Oh, there's a second bullfrog here. Wow. It's got pretty dangerous pretty quickly here. I killed the adder. Alright, this bullfrog is now on me. Can I read a teleportation scroll? I absolutely can. Alright, cool. I got out of dodge there. We're just gonna rest up. These enemies are now active, so they will actually just start moving around. Thankfully, it's a linear corridor, so I can't like lose track of them. If they come close, they're gonna, or if they move too far, they're gonna just come right at me. And thankfully, they will do so randomly, which means one at a time. Nice. Reach level 6. My translocations has gone up to level 2. There's another bullfrog and some more snakes somewhere around here that I've got to keep my eyes open for. Okay. Alright, there's the other bullfrog. Okay. That's everything. Couple of unknown potions, a scroll of blinking. Alright, so I spent a single scroll of teleportation. It could have been worse. I gained a bunch of them in here anyway. So like it's a full net gain.